Welcome to Let Freedom Ring. Hope everybody's having a wonderful week out there. My guest this week, Melissa Van Kalken. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to have you on. I know we've had to do a little rescheduling things, but, you know, we go back a couple of years now.
Yeah, I think almost 7.
Really?
I think so.
Time just flies by, you know.
It's good. It's because you have the good company.
Yeah. No, that's part of it, but definitely it's always been good working with you. So, and I was invited to your wedding.
You were.
You
You missed part of the ceremony,
I
but
did.
you were there for the after party, which was the important part.
I did, and it was one of those things where I had to be in two places at one time. It was a surprise party from my sister-in-law and the wedding. So then, did I ever tell you the story? I tried to sneak in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I tried to sneak in, and then you guys were right there, and I was like, and then I don't even know what I said, but I was just like, you know.
Yeah, because we were coming back from taking our like solo pictures after the ceremony, and like you were heading up the stairs, and I was like, hi.
I tried to sneak in, but then it was one of those things where it's like I'm gonna make both. I just didn't know how I was gonna do it. Somehow managed it. Didn't get to see the full ceremony, but
you were there for the fun part. You were there for especially for like the big like work group at the end, because I felt like having everybody from work together, like especially post-COVID, was such great atmosphere.
That was awesome, because it was like, hey, I used to see you guys every day, and now I talk to you on a computer. You know? So, but let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
So I was born and raised in Goffstown, New Hampshire, so not too far from here. I now live in Manchester, New Hampshire, over on, I want to say, the east side. I don't really know what the sides are, to be completely honest, but I'm near the VA.
Okay. So how far away from like the Fisher Cats are you?
Well, the Fisher Cats is right next to work, and work is 7 minutes from me, so
Okay.
not far at all.
No, nice. Now, what was it like growing up in Goffstown? That's the Grizzlies, right?
Yeah, it's the Grizzlies. It was great, honestly. It was, I feel like, the quintessential small town life. I know that Goffstown's a lot bigger now because there's just so many people who want to have like that small town feel. But it was great. I felt like we had a great school system. I felt that we had like a lot of diversity in the sense of, you know, even though our school didn't have a lot of variety of people, we tried to really like accentuate the differences of the people that we did have. So I felt like everybody had a space. I know when I got to college, I heard like a lot of stories from my classmates about like bullying and like cliques, and I personally, growing up, didn't really experience any of that. So I felt like Goffstown was like a really safe, fun place to be. At least it was then. I don't know how it is now, but.
Yeah. Now, did you? Now, it's crazy because I wasn't aware of, you know, the mountain there. It's not like a huge mountain, but Unkanunik. I mean, you can see it all, you know, wherever you want.
Everywhere.
Manchester.
Yeah.
Did you hike that a lot, or was it just kind of something in the background, or?
I hiked it in 3rd grade. I went to Maple Ave, which is in Penardville, which is like a subsection of Manchester and Goffstown. And I remember hiking it in 3rd grade. And then I honestly just kind of forgot about it. Like it was just always something in the background, and I didn't hike it again until probably like 8 years ago.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, this technically is a mountain, so I should probably take advantage of doing it, because normally I would go like up north for like the bigger mountains. But I was like, this is right in my backyard, so I should take advantage of it.
It really is, and I wasn't even really aware of it until I started working at SNU.
Yeah.
We used to park at we have the parking lot that's next to the liquor store, and you can see it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is that? And then finally went up it, and it's a really cool view of Manchester.
It is. It's a good view of Manchester, and it's like a pretty decent hike. Like it's not like hard, it's not long, but it's fun. It's a fun like little jaunt, and I feel like it's something that's very family friendly for like everybody from like the novices to like people who are like yourself, like expert hikers can do and still like enjoy themselves.
Somewhat expert, because I did get lost on there and ended up on private property. I will say one other thing that I never believed you could see Boston on a clear day until I did, and I was like, I'm like going down the mountain telling everyone like, yo, you can see Boston today. I'm not kidding.
From Unkanunik?
Yes.
No, you cannot.
Yes, you can. I didn't believe it either because every time I went up it, because everybody's like, you can see Boston. I go, I don't see it. I see Manchester. Then finally it was like this clear day. I go, and my face just dropped. I think it was with my brother Mike, and I go, dude, what's going on? Like, you can see Boston. So try it again and get like the clearest day possible. It's pretty cool.
Well, once it stops raining this summer,
Yes.
I'm gonna test that out because I have never heard that. But if you say it's true, I'm gonna have to take you at face value and test it out.
Yeah, it's definitely, clear day. If you Google it, it explains it. But yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's so cool.
Now, what's 3 things that everybody should know about you?
I thought about this a lot because, at work we tend to do icebreakers all the time. So I was trying to think of something unique, but then I just kind of came up with the simple things. So I think a good thing that most people should know about me is that I am a very good listener. I tend to just draw people in if they're looking to talk with somebody, even if it's friends, coworkers, even just people like out on the street. I feel like I just have like a pleasant appearance or aura that people will just feel like they can like talk to me about just about anything. And I might not always have like great advice or be able to help, but I'm really good at just like listening and letting people vent.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Another thing, I don't know if it's good to know, but I am part of the small population that is left-handed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
I actually, before coming to the show, I did Google search how many people in the world are actually left-handed, because I know it's a small percentage compared to right, but it's only 10 to 12% of the entire world population, which was way smaller than I thought it was.
That's insane. I read, or I was watching some podcast, they said like the amount of people that are left-handed are like, it's the number's rising all through the years, but they're also like more people are like not trying to be right-handed, they just go with the natural hand. And I don't know if that was really like a thing, but it sounds like people were afraid to be left-handed back in the back.
Back in the day, it was considered like a sign of the devil if you were left-handed.
That's crazy.
So like my aunt, for instance, she was naturally a left-handed individual, but the school that she went to, if the teachers saw her using her left hand in class, they would smack her hand with a ruler, and like she had to force herself to learn how to write as a right-handed person.
Oh my goodness.
So it's something that not a lot of people are, but I'm glad that people are feeling safe enough to embrace the left-handed life now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think well, if I was a pitcher, like in baseball, I definitely like left-handed. Like Randy Johnson was like the scariest pitcher you could ever probably, and he this left-handed, tall guy. But yeah, no. And the third thing, was that 3?
Oh, that was 2. My third thing is I didn't learn how to ride a bike until I was 24. My now husband Justin taught me how.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just never learned how to when I was little, and I always wanted to, but I never really had the space to learn because my house growing up was on a hill, so I didn't really want to try to learn as an adult on a hill.
Yeah.
Didn't feel very safe. But then I started dating my now husband, Justin, and his family has like a really long driveway, and they lived in Dunbarton, so there wasn't like a lot of traffic. So he eventually took me out and taught me how to ride a bike, and I felt very accomplished.
Now, okay, so now at 24 learning, did you have to start with training wheels?
I didn't. I refused to start with training wheels. I did require a helmet and knee pads because I was petrified of falling.
Yeah.
But no training wheels. I was like, I don't want to do that. I need to learn, but I cannot have training wheels. I can't go down that road.
Yeah. No one video this, please. No, that's pretty well. That's that happens. I never thought about like in our neighborhood we all had bikes and we lived on a circle. Mm-hmm. So when it was really had nothing to do, we just ride around all day, like nowhere to go, just talking and riding your bikes. But all right, I gotta ask this. This is the money question. Let freedom ring.
Okay.
And we ask everybody sticking with the theme of the show. What does it mean to you to be an American?
So for me, to be an American really boils down to opportunity and equality. I feel like the quintessential idea of America is the place for opportunity and the place for you to be able to be yourself and be accepted just as much as it is your neighbor or the stranger down the street or anybody that you come in contact with. I know that, especially within the last decade or so, things have been strained between different groups and different people. But I think that at the epicenter of America, it's really just about having opportunities and having everybody have the same opportunities, and just all of us really being treated equally is what I think of when I think of being like a true American.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we are a very diverse country, and like, we did get more split in the last couple of years, but like, if we really look at it, we've always been that way.
Right, and I feel like, especially as a millennial, I feel like I look at part of the history that I've lived through with rose-colored glasses. Because to me, within the last 10 years, we've been very like this side, that side. But before 10 years ago, I mean, I was in college and I was a high school student, so I didn't really see the real world as in depth as I do now. So it might have been, like you said, like still very separated, but it was just in a time where I was still a child, so I couldn't really see it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, what do you think of this though? Like, I have a lot of friends with different views than me, and I don't really argue with them often. But do you feel social media is like a driving force in putting it in your face all the time?
I think social media can be a hindrance, and it can also be helpful. I feel like with social media, things can roll and ball out of control so fast. So therefore, instead of just having like one person get misconstrued information, they then share it with another group of people and then another, and then it just becomes this huge outblown situation. And then people get like very defensive, or they get very argumentative about things. Whereas like if it was just you and me like in a coffee shop and you overheard me reading a newspaper out loud to myself and you were like, oh, I didn't know that the left actually meant right. I'd be like, oh no, I said the right means right and the left means left. You'd be like, oh, okay. And then we would just move on. But like if I post something online that's misinformation and then you share it and then they share it, it just goes so fast that there's like no stopping it. So I feel like it can really just be such a hindrance.
I definitely think that misinformation was a huge thing, and I don't want to get too much into the election that I felt like it, but that was a big thing. And I have to say, and I don't want to, we don't want to go down too much because we get so hooked on the generations, but boomers, you got to know how to use social media. We were, I wouldn't say my parents personally are that guilty of it, but you have a lot of people that are older that when we were probably kids, they're like, you can't just take things at face value. You get this one part of this generation who gets on social media and it's like everything's at face value. Yep. Share button,
Exactly. And one of the things that like sticks out for me, especially when it comes to like the boomers, is how they tend to stress, and I'm generalizing, and I realize that.
We are generalizing here. This is not everybody in any way.
That, our generation, millennials and Gen Z, we're all very sensitive, or things are just blown out of proportion. But I feel like they feel as though that's true because they didn't have a social media platform to really share their ideas and their thoughts and their feelings back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. But like if they had, I feel like people would have been able to voice their opinions and their thoughts on a world scale. And I feel like it would have been exactly the same. It's just different that we now have a platform to share our thoughts to everybody in the world at a split second. So therefore, to you, it might feel like everybody's so up in arms all the time, but it's just like you didn't have access to that kind of platform when you were a child. So if you had, it might have been exactly the same.
I think that's really well put. I think that's true. Because I don't think people are always evolving, but they really emotionally haven't changed all that much, in my opinion. I see a lot of people share stuff where they're like, this generation doesn't care about marriage or this and that, or they don't know. You see a lot of the sad posts where people are, this generation's dishonest, this and that. You have always had people like that in every generation. Mm-hmm. It's not a generational thing; it's a human thing.
Exactly.
But I do want to get to the fan questions because you got a bunch here. Jill Marie wants to know, and I think that's Jill Frechette.
It is.
Sometimes I get thrown off. Like I'll forget like people's last names because she uses her middle name. But Jill wants to know, what's the one ride at Magic Kingdom that needs to be retired? It's the Carousel of Progress for me. So she's not a fan of the Carousel of Progress. But which one do you think?
Okay, well, I'm going to have to disagree with Jill. I understand where Jill might be coming from. I know you've never been to Disney.
No.
So you don't know. So for those who don't know, the Carousel of Progress is this very, very, very old ride. It is the longest running stage show in history. It premiered at the 1964 World's Fair.
Okay.
And it has been running ever since. So essentially what happens is you go into this room and you take a seat, and it's like a theater, and essentially the room will start to rotate, and each time it rotates, it takes you into a different decade. And there are animatronics on stage that are telling you all about like the technological advances that have come since the last decade. So it's really just history being told. And Walt Disney was a huge person in regards to technological advances and really just a huge history buff. So that was like one of his like brain children. And so even though it's like 25 minutes long.
Oh, wow.
So for a lot of people, like once you're in the theater, you cannot leave because it rotates. So you're like locked in.
Yeah.
So if you have like a small child and they start crying, like you ain't going nowhere. So for a lot of people that is very boring. So I can understand her wanting that to be removed. But for me, that is the only thing in Disney World that Walt had a hand in making.
Oh, okay.
Because that ride is the one that was at the World's Fair. And Walt passed away before Magic Kingdom or any part of Disney World was built. So the fact that that was one of his babies and it's still there, that for me is like, it has to stay. What I would say needs to be replaced in Magic Kingdom would be the Tomorrowland Speedway. It is essentially it's a track, and it's at pretty much every theme park across America where you get into like the old-timey cars and you drive, and they reek of like diesel. It's so weird because it's like it's in between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. There's nothing fantasy about those cars. There's nothing futuristic about those cars. It's just there. So I would replace it with something a little bit spiced up, a little bit of zhuzh. There was a movie that came out a couple years ago called Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you watched it with your nieces and nephews.
I have not, but I know that one of the stepbrothers is in it. Riley, John O'Reilly.
Yeah.
John Riley, yeah.
One of the video games that is one of the main focuses of that movie is called Sugar Rush. And it's a video game about racing that's centered around like candy. So I would take the Tomorrowland Speedway and transform it into the Sugar Rush Speedway.
Okay.
That way you can still use those cars, but maybe give them like a paint job and fix them so they don't reek of diesel everywhere in the park. That way, like, you don't have to put like a ton of money into reinventing it, but like it draws in people because there's an IP attached to it. So you'll have more people who want to go and ride it.
Is there like, okay, so I have not been, Canopy Lake is enough for me. Maybe someday I'll go to Disney World, but Is there like long lines still for this ride, or is it like, was that one of the rides like you're like, all right, no one's here, I can just get in?
Pretty much. It's pretty much a ride that has at most like a 15-minute wait. Unless it's like one of the busy times of year where it's like it's Christmas Day or it's like 4th of July, because then at that point anything has a long line. But it's pretty much, yeah, like 5 to 15 minutes at any time. Because it's like, as adults, like we don't really want to go on those because it's you're just driving a car, which I do every day of my life.
That's how I got here. Yeah.
So it's more of like a thing that's drawn in for kids, but I feel like because it's so old and it's just doesn't have any pizzazz to it, that it doesn't even draw in the kids that much. So it's just kind of like a filler attraction for most people.
What's the longest you've ever waited for a ride?
The longest I've ever waited in Disney, I would say about 2.5 hours. It wasn't by choice. The first time that I went to Disney with my husband, it was the end of the night and he really wanted to go on a certain ride one more time. And when we got into line, it was only like a 45-minute wait. And we got halfway through the queue and then the ride broke down. And they said, like, you can either leave or you can stay in the line. The park itself had closed, so if you left the line, you had to get out of the park.
Oh, geez.
If you stayed in the line, you could stay there until it theoretically came back up. They gave you like a 30-minute, like if it's not up in 30 minutes, then we're going to close it down. So we just sat there and then it eventually came back up. So we ended up sitting in line for about 2.5 hours.
Wow.
But the thing about Disney specifically is that their queues for their lines, so like the lines themselves, are very immersive. So it's not like you're just standing like at Canopy, you're just sitting in like direct sun being beat on.
Sometimes bees.
Yes, oh my gosh. But like you'll be in like an interactive queue, or you'll have like just...
Oh, so you're doing something.
Yeah, sometimes you're doing things like for the Haunted Mansion, like there are gravestones that have like little rhymes on them. Like there's a murder mystery that you can solve while you're in line.
Okay.
If you read all of like the different headstones. So their queues try to keep you entertained while you're sitting through them, because they know like sometimes you're going to be there for a long time. And sometimes, especially if you have like little kids need to be stimulated somehow. So having something that makes noise or something that they can touch really helps like pass that time for them.
Yeah, I think that's like one of my biggest, you know, I'm not one of those people that wigs out in traffic. Like I'm not, but I think I would just be sitting there when I'm okay, I don't wig out, but I'm internally struggling. I think I would have a hard time in the lines. But I gotta ask this. Ami Trombley wants to know, what is the perfect Disney day?
For me, the perfect Disney day would be getting up at the crack of dawn. I know that sounds crazy, but I would get up at the crack of dawn and I would rope drop Magic Kingdom. Rope drop is essentially you get there before the park opens and they like drop the rope and you walk over the rope and you enter the park.
And there's not a special ticket. You're just there early.
You're just there like waiting. And I would go to the Starbucks on Main Street USA, grab a coffee, and just kind of stroll along Main Street USA, go on some rides, meet Mickey Mouse, because he's the boss man. You got to meet him when you're in his park.
It is, yeah.
And I would end the day, I would spend the majority of my time in Magic Kingdom because that's my favorite park.
Okay.
But I would leave Magic Kingdom at night and go to Hollywood Studios to see the nighttime show Fantasmic, which is a water show with fireworks and animatronics and characters. It's just a mind-blowing nighttime show. So I would end it there and get a Wookiee cookie on my way out.
Okay.
It's so good.
What time's the park close? Is it like 24 hours or?
The parks close at varying times. Typically, Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios close at like 9, unless there's a special event. Animal Kingdom closes pretty early. It closes at like 5 or 6, just because they don't want the noise of people around to disturb the animals when they're trying to sleep. And then Epcot is usually about like 10-ish. So, but sometimes they will close earlier if there's like a special event happening or somebody rented out the park for like a wedding or anything like that. Or the parks will stay open later. Like they have Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party that happens in the fall that will have the parks stay actually open until like 1 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Which is an extra paid thing that you do, but you can essentially be at the park for 16 hours, which is crazy, but fun.
We're on vacation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting older now. I probably get tired. But
Just take a midday nap, have a prime.
yeah, no, we don't want to advertise this, just, but yes, there is. Pat Conley wants to know. He's got a few questions actually. Your favorite ride.
Favorite ride, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, didn't even have to think about that. Okay. Favorite place, anywhere you love to be at Walt Disney World?
Honestly, Main Street USA. For those who don't know, Main Street USA is in Magic Kingdom. It's essentially where you enter the park. There's a big archway, and there's a quote, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's over the archway, and it says, "Here you leave behind the days of yesterday and tomorrow and enter the world of fantasy." And it's a quote from Walt, and it just is a quintessential Disney for me. So you just walk in, and you have this little old town that's essentially made to look like the 1940s. It's just very like old school, like cozy Midwestern town. And straight down the street is just the Magic Kingdom castle, Cinderella's castle. And like that for me is just like the magic of Disney. Just being in that one spot feels just wonderful.
Like you're in a movie almost.
Yeah, like it just feels like I'm in the place that makes me the happiest. Like I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about family problems. I'm not thinking about the chaos of the world. I'm just in this happy moment.
And that's like the picture everybody wants to get is Cinderella's castle.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you might be selling. I don't know. I might have to go someday. Now, the more I'm hearing about it. Pat wants to know, and I love this question: the fondest memory you have that revisits you every time you go.
So I would say my fondest memory is not a memory that's that old. The first time I went with Justin, before we got together, he was not a big Disney person, such as yourself. He was just like, Disney's just like Canopy. I'm like, no, no, it is not. But then he grew to love Disney and wanted to go. So we went together, and he's a huge Star Wars person. So after Galaxy's Edge, which was like a Star Wars land, opened.
This has been like a huge merger.
Yeah. It was insane. Like the land itself is exceptionally immersive, and it's crazy. And one of the things about that park is random Star Wars characters will just be wandering around that you can just approach and like talk to. And it's very cool. It's very immersive. And Justin and I were in Galaxy's Edge. We were just sitting there talking. I think we were just waiting for our coffees to get made. And out of the corner of his eye, he sees two stormtroopers walk past him. And he was just like full on small child, full of adrenaline, ran at them with his phone in his hand. And the stormtrooper just turns around and says, "Settle down, citizen," and just walks away. And it was so funny because it was a very stormtrooper-esque response.
Yeah.
But it was just so adorable for me to just see him just like light up as if like his childhood dreams were coming true, just like seeing like a stormtrooper like right next to him. So that's something that I just like, it's so cute.
No, that's awesome. My brother took his family, and one of the stormtroopers said something to my niece, and but I remember watching the video thing. That's pretty funny.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've never been to Disney, and I just like I've only really done. I went to Six Flags one time, and this was almost 20 years ago. And my brother was like, "We got to get in line. We're gonna do Superman Ride of Steel right off the bat." And I've only done Canopy Lake.
Oh no!
I had no idea.
No.
What I was getting into. I mean, I was just like, whoa. As like we're walking up, and I'm looking at it, I go, I've never done anything like this. And I literally like got on, and it was one of those, you see these videos of, like people like on these rides and they're passing out. I didn't
Yeah.
pass out, but I was like opening, closing. I was like, this is insane. Like, so I can only imagine. That was like 2005, and I remember just being like, what did I just get on?
No, that thing is wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. Is that still around? I don't want anything to do with it, but
I haven't been to not Canopy. I haven't been to Six Flags since like 2009 maybe?
Okay, yeah.
Long time. So I think they renamed it. I think it's something different now, but I think it's still the same roller coaster. Yeah. Massively scary.
Yeah, that was, I'm having flashbacks. Kelly the Plant wants to know, former guest of the show, what is one piece of advice, and this is a college, almost like an advising question. What is one piece of advice that you can offer a student who wants to give up?
That's a great question. I think my advice would depend on what it is that they're thinking is stopping them. So is it they're just tired, or is it they have too much on their plate? Is it they just feel run down? So I think my advice would really depend on the student in the moment in that situation. I feel like the majority of the time when it comes to students wanting to stop classes or take time off, it's usually just because they want to have time away. And I can understand wanting to take some time for themselves, especially if it's like the summer or it's holidays. But what I usually will talk to them about is the end goal. And, you can take that time if you feel like it's really going to help you and rejuvenate like your batteries, because your mental health and your mental well-being are most important. But if you're going to take this time off every summer or every Christmas, think about how much you're putting yourself back at finishing that degree, how long it is going to be for you to get to your end goal. You're just pushing it off and pushing it off. And think of how hard it's going to be when you come back. So unless it's something that you really feel like you need, not just like a whim, I would tell them, really, really think about it and really evaluate, what do you really think you're going to be like in September when the term comes up that you're supposed to be back in class? Do you feel like you're going to be rejuvenated and ready to go? Or do you feel like you're going to be kind of lackadaisical because you've gotten out of the rhythm and you're just like, no, I'll start again next term. I'm not ready yet. Because that tends to be what happens to students. Like, they just get into that rhythm.
We do, I've found that you have some people that can take that term off, it's no problem, and they're right back in it. And then you do have people that sometimes it's like, take some time off, now we like that time off, and then you start forgetting about why you were here in the first place.
Exactly.
And I think that's like a dangerous game. Well, if you want to finish your degree, like, you got to remember why you were there, what your goals are.
Exactly. Like, why did you start this?
Yeah, and I think when people can refocus on that, they're good. It's like anything, right? Like in life, like the further you get away from something, literally the further you get away from it, and you keep
exactly.
So I think it's good advice. We definitely, we've been doing this for a long time. We know.
Professionals.
I do have some Disney-related questions I want to ask you. What got you into Disney in the first place?
Honestly, I can't remember what exactly got me into Disney. I just remembered being a child and rewinding my Beauty and the Beast VHS tape over and over and over, and just having that be something that just brought me so much joy, just watching that movie. And I think it just blossomed from there. I just loved the films as a child. Like, I feel like late 80s, early 90s Disney movies were just creme de la creme. And those really got me into it. And nowadays, like, I feel like my love for Disney really strives from like the parks themselves. Like, I love Disney movies, but I really, really adore the Disney parks and like the history behind Disney. I don't feel like a lot of people know about like all like the technological advances that came because of Disney and Walt Disney himself. So I am just enthralled by that aspect.
Yeah, no, I agree. The '90s were the time for Disney. I gotta say though, TikTok. I don't follow TikTok. I don't want people to misunderstand. I get TikTok videos like months later when they're on Instagram, like a real millennial. And I stumbled upon one, and I always thought The Lion King was an original movie by Disney. That's what they still claim. Have you heard about this? The Kimba?
Yep.
I think it was a Japanese cartoon before.
It's a little darker. It's a little bit darker.
But like they completely, I mean, the characters look alike.
Almost the exact same plot line, almost the exact same character portrayals, just slightly different and a little bit of like Disney magic. 'Cause like I said, the Kimba is very dark, but it's one of those things that's like, Disney is not perfect. I will never claim that they are without ill repute, but that is one of the things that they're like, no. This is original.
Yeah.
Original.
I've walked around this planet since 1994 which Lion King, full disclosure, is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Because it's a classic.
It was on my 100 favorite movies of all time that I did on the show. We did a live stream of it. My heart was broken. I'm over it now because it's still a great movie.
It's still a great movie. It doesn't take away how great that movie is. It just kind of like dims it a little bit. Like, oh, Disney, you didn't actually do that yourself?
Just say that you based on this.
Well, just like most of like...
We know you didn't write Cinderella.
Exactly. Like most of like the old Disney movies are from old fairy tales and old stories. So it's just like, why don't you just own up to that one too?
It's simple as that. But man, these videos coming out, like, I don't want to get into the Notorious B.I.G. thing because that ruined my week before. This is now ruining my week now. So you TikTokers, Gen Z, stop. Just stop. What keeps you a fan of the parks of Disney as a whole?
I think what keeps me as a fan is that Disney's always changing. Like, and that's honestly one of the pillars that Walt himself established when he made Disneyland. He said that Disneyland will never be complete because it'll always be updating, it'll always be changing. And I think that that's one of the things that just really hooks me in, is that I haven't been to Disney World a ton of my life. I've been a handful of times, which is more than other people can say, and I realize how privileged I am to say that. But it's never been the same anytime I've gone. Like, there's always either a new ride, a new show, a new character to meet, new snacks, because they have like different food and wine festivals and all these different things that really just keep it fresh and just keep it like a new experience every time you go. And same thing with like the Disney movies. Like, Disney films are, I would say, a lot different now than when, the 90s. Yeah. I think our movies were better in the 90s. But that's just my opinion. But I feel like it's just, there's always something new that they're going to bring to the table, and they're always willing to adapt. Sometimes the changes are hard to accept. You don't always love them, but it's what Walt would have wanted.
Now, I really want to ask this question because I'm pretty excited about it, because I'm curious.
Okay.
What are your top 5 favorite Disney movies?
Okay, I thought about this a long time. So my all-time favorite is Beauty and the Beast, hands down.
That was your song at your wedding, or one of the songs, right?
Yes, okay. It was. And I have The Enchanted Rose on my shoulder, so it's just part of what makes me me. My second one would be Moana. I think if Moana came out when we were kids, it probably would have been my favorite movie.
Addie loves that movie.
The story's great. It's visually so beautiful, and the songs are just so catchy. Pirates of the Caribbean, the original. I think it's an amazing movie. It's based off of my favorite ride, so it's just all encapsulating. Strangely, Mulan is in there. I don't know why. The night before I go to Disney World, I always watch Mulan, because when I went to Disney World the very first time, my mom was checking us in at the hotel, and they had like a little kids section when you were checking in, and they were playing Mulan. So that Mulan has always just had a special place in my heart because I feel like it is connected to Disney for me from that time. And then my fifth one would probably be Muppet Treasure Island.
Oh.
Because it incorporates like my love of pirates and the love of the Muppets. And like Tim Curry is just amazing.
Tim Curry's in that?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, wow, okay. Mm-hmm. I don't see. I'm a huge fan of Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's probably my number 2, holiday movie. I'll have to check that one out.
It's so good. It's so kitschy, and it'll make you laugh.
All right. I see. I love. I mean, I've just said. I mean, that's why I'm so heartbroken. Like Lion King, by far my favorite Disney movie. I mean, I don't care what time of the day. Like you throw on Lion King, I'm hooked. I'm like, yeah, Hakuna Matata, let's go. And Aladdin. Where does Aladdin fit anywhere into your fanhood at all?
I do love Aladdin, especially the genie. I feel like
oh my God.
Robin Williams I loved him so much. So Aladdin is definitely top 10, just from the genie in and of himself.
And he didn't even take a full salary on that because he wanted to do it so bad.
He did, and it's a sad fact, but I also think it's really entertaining. They missed out on being nominated for an Oscar for his song in Aladdin because most of it was improv, so therefore nobody wrote the song.
Oh, wow.
So you couldn't really nominate a song that wasn't written, like you couldn't write a score for it. So they missed out on an Oscar nomination, but like everybody knows that song, and everybody's just, it's a great song.
No, he's we've seen a lot of talented people in our lifetime. He's like a generational, once in a lifetime talent that he had. I remember when I did see that he passed. That was one of the only times. It's weird because I don't even say that I'm a diehard like Robin Williams guy, but I remember seeing the headline. I went, no. I'm like, I've never met Robin Williams. Like I literally had that reaction. No, you got to eat Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, very sad stuff. He was he had a tough go.
He did, and I think I am kind of in that boat with you. Is that like I've never been like impacted by a celebrity's death, with the exception of Steve Irwin. I remember being crushed by Steve Irwin's passing. But when Robin Williams passed, I drove to Keene because that's where I went to college, and that's where Jumanji was filmed.
Oh. Okay.
And we still have like the old parish shoe sign up on one of the brick buildings, and a bunch of people from Keene had like made like a little memorial there for him, and I remember going and like putting down flowers, and I think that is the only time I've ever made like a contribution to like a memorial for anybody, just because I felt like he was so quintessential to like my childhood.
Yeah.
Because like that and Hook, Mrs. Doubtfire, so many movies.
I mean, and the other thing about him was like, yeah, we enjoyed these kid movies, and then he does Good Will Hunting.
Oh my God.
And I remember being like, okay, this guy can do it all. Like he can literally do it all.
Everything.
So yeah, I definitely put him as like one of those once in a generational talents. Have you seen the new Little Mermaid at all?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not seen it. I know there's a lot of controversy around it. I haven't not seen it because I don't want to. I just haven't had the time. I think it looks pretty bad in regards to like the CGI aspect of it. So usually if a movie has really bad CGI, I cannot focus on it because I'm just distracted by how weird everything looks. But I've heard that the movie itself is actually surprisingly good, but I have not seen it.
I think it's worth seeing. I think Melissa McCarthy was meant to play Ursula. That's a good fit.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that was a really good fit. Haley Bailey, who I kept thinking there's another Haley Berry, but I was looking at the name. I was looking at it too quick. And I was like, oh, she got the same name. And then I'm like looking at Wikipedia. I go, no, her name's Bailey, not Barry. And she's good. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I think she's an up and coming. She's going to be a star, I think, too. And
so that's what I've heard. I've heard that she is like a showstopper in her role as Ariel, because I know a lot of people were like unsure about her for a number of different reasons.
Well, people are, that really did actually bother me.
Yeah.
There's nowhere that says that Ariel has to be black or white or whatever. Like, that's
she's
so
a mermaid.
Yeah.
Like, she's a fantasy creature. Just leave it alone.
People are...
If it was like a historical figure, I could understand you being distraught. But it's fantasy. It is made up.
Yeah, that was very... people are crazy.
Exactly. So, like, part of me wants to see it in theaters just so she gets that little bit of a bump. Like, yeah, people went and saw my movie rather than like waiting till it gets streamed, because I feel like
it's making money.
Yeah.
And I like her too because she paid tribute to Janet Jackson. So that you're high in my book if you do that. I gotta ask you this. I know you're a huge Office fan like me.
Yes.
What do you think made The Office so special?
So I will 100% admit I did not watch The Office while it was on air. I am a late up-and-comer Office lover. But I think what made The Office so special is that it was just so different than any comedy on TV. Like, it didn't have a laugh track. And it felt very awkward and cringy, but like in a way that like entertained you. Like, I don't like the show Friends. I've never been able to get into Friends, even though I know it's one of those like all-time favorite shows for a lot of people. But I don't find it funny. I don't find it compelling. But Michael Scott, one of the best characters ever.
Yes.
Ever. And I know that I like the Jim and Pam, like, will they, won't they, the first few seasons. Like, it was so subtle that, like, it wasn't in your face that was, like, the main plot line of the show, but it was still, like, a cute, like, little, like, ooh, what's going on?
Yeah.
But, and, like, I've never seen another character like Dwight. I've never seen another character like Angela. Like, they're all just so unique that it's just hilarious.
The casting is, like, unbelievable.
Oh, my God. Perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, could that fly today? I'm like, that was the point. It didn't really fly then either.
Right, like they rode that hair very finely, even for then.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was the point. Michael Scott he's always trying to do the right thing, but he's an idiot.
Exactly.
And he says things that would be taken as offensive, but he's not trying to be. And, I don't know. I think that's where people have issues with cancel culture, is like, things out of context, things that people didn't mean, that they can't forgive them on.
Right.
There are some people that deserve to be canceled, like, and done with. There's some people that make mistakes, and,
Exactly.
I gotta ask this. Do you think a remake could ever happen?
I think a remake could happen. However, I don't think it would be able to live up to the fan love unless it was something that was immediately put on a streaming platform. I don't think it could go back to like basic cable like it was back in the day, just because of how it might be approached by some of the comedy that's in it. But I feel like if it was on a streaming network, they might have a little bit more flexibility. But even then, I don't feel like it would still be the same. Like, you're never gonna get another dinner party episode. Like,
No.
Best episode.
Yeah, that is one of my favorites. I mean, you can't catch, you'll never catch the lightning in a bottle again. Steve Carell's don't grow on trees. They just don't.
Mm-mm.
And, man, he came so far, because I remember when he was in Anchorman as like a secondary character. And and he was on The Daily Show, I think.
Yeah.
And he just was like and then, man, did he hit his stride.
Same with John Krasinski. Like, he's in like a lot of like action things now.
Yeah.
Like Jack Ryan on, I think it's Amazon Prime. So good. Such a good show. And it's like action, and he's just it's not a funny show. It's like an action serious show. And like, you don't see a hint of Jim in it, but like, he was Jim in The Office. So I feel like that just shows like how versatile he really was.
I think the sign of a good actor is you can do it all.
Yeah.
You can be serious and you can be funny. I want to get into this because this is I want to do a Disney blank versus blank. I'm gonna give you 2 Disney related things. You got to pick one. You got to tell me why.
Okay.
First one. They're a couple. Mickey or Minnie?
Mickey. Mickey is essentially at the heart of Disney. Minnie she's his girl, but Mickey is the boss man, so he has to be number 1.
When did she come into because it started like Steamboat something, right?
Steamboat Willie, I'm so proud of you for knowing that.
Oh, I know the history of Disney.
She didn't come in too far after. I can't remember how far, but her original name was going to be Minerva, and Walt's wife was like, that is such an old lady name, like, no, change it, make it easier. So that's where they came up with Minnie.
Okay. Goofy or Donald?
I'm going to go with Donald because Donald is so sassy and I just love that. Like, he's just unpredictable.
Yeah, those are 2 really, lovable characters for sure. That's a tough one. This is probably a slam dunk for you though, which I should have thought about before I paired them. But you're going to have to tell me why though.
Okay.
It sounds like it's my favorite Disney movie, which is Lion King, and yours, Beauty and the Beast.
So those are my 2 options?
Those are the options.
Beauty and the Beast. Like I said before, it's quintessential to like my childhood. I love that movie. I even love the remake that they did a few years ago, and I'm not a huge fan of most of the remakes that they've done, but it's just, the music's great, the story's great. I know pessimistic people nowadays will be like, oh, like it's just Stockholm Syndrome Disney-fied, and I'm like, no, get out of here. But it's just great.
They think, don't they think like he's imagining everything or something? Or people on the internet put these like, what really happened in this movie?
Yeah, like they put like so many different like undertones to like movies and shows, and I'm like, no. Can we just leave it as it was? Like, let's not look too deep into anything. Like, you're looking for something that's not there.
Yeah, stop ruining things. I gotta ask this: Little Mermaid or Sleeping Beauty?
Little Mermaid. I feel like it's a more enjoyable film, even though I feel like Sleeping Beauty had more of a stakehold in like Disney's early years.
Yeah, I guess that's a wide gap between when those movies came out, but I have to say, I mean, like Lion King, you gotta love the music in Little Mermaid.
It's so fun, and it's just like almost every single song is something that will just get stuck in your head.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they do a good job using them in the new film too. But those are just banger soundtracks.
They are, like those and the Tarzan soundtrack, like perfect. Phil Collins went so hard on that soundtrack.
I gotta listen to that again. I have heard it because I mean I am a Phil Collins fan. I don't know why I never got. When did Tarzan come out?
Like 98, I think.
Oh, okay. So I'm entering middle school at that point.
Yeah, you're starting to get to that like I'm too school for Disney.
Yeah.
Understandable.
I think that's where I started falling off on some of those movies. Like, until then I get to, graduate. Yeah, I'll see Finding Nemo. Yeah. But like middle school, you gotta be cool. Sebastian or Pumbaa?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with Pumbaa. I feel like a Pumbaa is a very loyal friend, whereas I feel like Sebastian, he is a good friend, but I feel like he's also not always the most trustworthy. He did slip some secrets to Ariel's dad, so not the best secret keeper.
Yeah, but who's his loyalty supposed to be to? He's in a tough boat.
He is. Like, he's supposed to be loyal to his king, but like, if I feel like you're my friend and I'm telling you something, I would think that it stays between us.
That's true. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Especially if it's like, if I'm not doing anything bad, like I'm just collecting knickknacks.
Yeah. I love both those characters, definitely. Okay, better villain.
Ooh.
This is a good one. Scar or Jafar?
Scar. Scar is an amazing villain. Like, he's spooky in and of himself. Like, he does make you like shudder. And he is pretty dark. He murdered his brother, and he was pretty willing to murder his nephew. So yeah, I would say he's way scarier than Jafar. Jafar's just kind of creepy.
Yeah, he is pretty creepy. But it does when he becomes that super genie at the
Yeah.
end, you know. But I think, yeah, Scar is very, just doesn't care, you
Yeah.
know. Not a good leader either.
No,
He
not
let the
at
kingdom
all.
just, you know. So, yeah, I agree with you. All right, this is a fun one I want to ask. This is not Disney.
Okay.
But do you prefer Prison Mike or Date Mike?
Oh my God. I'm gonna go with Prison Mike, because Prison Mike he is hardcore. He has seen some things. He's faced Dementors and lived to tell the tale. He knows how to make a good gruel sandwich. So I think he has to be my guy.
One of the funniest episodes they ever did. But, you know, Date Mike came later, but that was pretty, but yeah, I think Prison Mike is just hard to top.
It really is. He's just so good. Close second might be Michael Klump.
Oh, yes. Yep. I did love it, you know, and I kidnapped the president's son, and I never got caught neither.
Then what are you in jail for?
What a great show. But anyways, Melissa, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank
It's been so
you.
much fun. Everybody out there, have a great week. Keep your heads up. Until next time, let freedom ring.